Hi guitarlings, this is Gray at Hub Guitar. Today we're going to do She'll Be Comin' Around the Mountain. So let's begin. So we've got a pickup measure, open G, and second fret of the third string, before we go into our C major chord at measure 1. And then we repeat the C note on top for the melody. So C, of course, is your third finger on the third fret of the second string, your middle finger on the second fret of the fourth string, and then your index finger on the first fret of the second string. We've got a little bit of a G kind of shape here in measure 2, so I'm going to put my third finger on the third fret of the bass, and then I'm going to put my middle finger on the second fret of the third string. I'm going to pluck them all at once, and then I'm going to move around with that melody. So da, da, opening that up to the open third string, go to the second fret of the fourth string, and then repeat the open third string. And then go back to my C major chord. All together. Now we're at measure 4, where we've got a weird B flat 7 chord. So if you're not used to this chord, you might find it funny that you've got to get used to kind of getting your hand really comfortable underneath the neck of the guitar in a different way. Because you've got to get the right angle so that your fingers are coming down straight and you can play the open fourth string. I'm going to put my middle finger on the first fret of the fifth string, have an open fourth string, and then I'm going to put my ring finger on the first fret of the third string. And that's because I really want my pinky to be free to get that melody. Now, to sort of plot my escape out of this weird open position in which all of my fingers have lined up on the first fret, I'm actually going to play C on the first fret with my pinky, and then maybe I'll slide up to the third fret of the second string. That kind of restores me to a more typical and comfortable open position before I go to my A minor 7. That's just one finger, first index finger on the first fret of the second string. And before we go to our E minor. That's also all open strings too, except for the pinky on the third fret of the first string. And then as we get to that third fret of the second string, try not to disturb the other notes that are ringing. There's a game that children play where they try not to step on the cracks of the tiles at department stores. So imagine yourself here, after you've played that open string, you're totally floating above the guitar, and all the strings are ringing, and you have to kind of come down on a string without touching any other string that you do not have business with. And that's how you can create the illusion that the guitar is a full and big sounding instrument. We resolve that D on the third fret of the second string to a C with the index finger on the first fret of the second string, before we go back to a G chord. Just to add a little bit of variation though, we're going to put a new note in the bass. That puts the B on the second fret of the fifth string in the bass. And then we do another, this is called an inversion of the G chord. We're playing a G chord, but now there's a different note in the bass, and so it turns into a G7 chord because there's an F in the bass. So I've got my index finger on F on the sixth string, and then I go to C over E. So you can hear that the bass is moving and it's going in a certain direction, and that's what makes it sound attractive. Then in measure 10, we've got a D minor over F. I like to do that with a bar because I find it a lot easier. So I bar across the first fret, but really I'm mostly just trying to get the sixth string. Then I put my third finger, or my ring finger, on the third fret of the fourth string, my middle finger on the second fret of the third string, and pinky on the third fret of the second string. After I play the first melody note, I leave the rest of the chord in place, but I lift up that pinky so that I can use the bar to play the second melody note. The fourth melody note is an open string, which gives you just enough time to get to this F sharp diminished shape. So I'm going to put my middle finger on the 2nd fret, which is F sharp of the 6th string. I'm going to put my index finger on the 1st fret of the 4th string, and I'm going to put my ring finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. And again, it's typical for this song, same melody note. So I'm just going to keep plucking that string. And then I go back to actually C over G. So I'm playing like a C chord, but instead of putting C in my bass on the 3rd fret of the 5th string, I'm actually putting G in my bass, which is the 3rd fret of the 6th string. And of course I have to put my pinky down on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string as well. So it actually starts off in a kind of unusual way. I've got my 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the 6th string, nothing on the 5th string. I've got my middle finger on the 2nd fret of the 4th string, open 3rd string, and pinky on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. But I quickly remove my pinky, replacing it with my index finger on the 1st fret of the 2nd string before I open that up to the open 2nd string. And then at the very last note of that measure, I've got to move probably my middle finger to the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. So that goes like this. At measure 13, we're going to walk down a little bit. We're going to start with a unison, which is a finger on the 5th fret of the 4th string. I'm going to pluck that with the open 3rd string. Now I move that down to the 3rd fret, 2nd fret, and open string. Each time I play both strings together. In measure 14, I play the 5th and 1st string open together. Put my 2nd finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, index finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, and then I put my ring finger on the 4th fret of the same string of the 3rd string before resolving that back to measure 15. So it's kind of hard to play that as a little snippet, but starting from measure 7, of course, this is a faster and more rousing tune, but you're going to have to practice it at a pretty slow tempo in order to perfect all of those chords and changes, so don't push the tempo. All right, that's it for She'll Be Comin' Round the Mountain. Thanks for watching.